We are Newcastle Fans TV, and we will be bringing you all the latest news regarding Newcastle United, as well as sharing our thoughts about the current situation that's going on. My name is Will Dixon, and I am joined in the studio today by
Jonny Greenwood,
Kyle Thompson,
and Lee Lawler.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. We will talk about Steve Bruce in a minute, but before we do, I just want to ask one question for everybody around the table. I've seen people, many of whom have followed Newcastle for far longer than I have, seen it under numerous amount of ownership, seen it in different leagues, and all that. But is this the lowest that Newcastle have fallen ever? Because that's seen what a lot of people are claiming. Lee?
Since I've been following the team 1995, I would probably say this. For me, there's so many things. It's not just the managerial carry on. There's off the field stuff, the shirts, the owner. The list goes on. I'm just naming a couple off the top of my head there. The boycotting, fans, discontent, and not just discontent with the club, discontent with each other. They're having a pop at each other now, and that's probably what Mike Ashley's rubbing his hands at, waving the cash like that. Thank you very much. Everyone's laughing away, having a go at each other, and he's just sat there chuckling away, raking it in. So, in 20-odd year, 24 year, definitely.
Jonny?
I haven't been following Newcastle as long as Lee, but
Oh, that's a dig at off.
but I would probably say it's up there. I think at the end of the 2014-15 season, when John Carver just managed to survive with Newcastle against Steve Bruce, ironically. Best coach in the league. I think at that stage, because there was a bit of uncertainty about who was coming in and who the next manager was going to be, I think that was quite low. But after what's happened with Rafa Benitez and the potential next manager of the club and the lack of signings and how close we are to this season, I'd probably say this just about edges it. But it is probably the worst time as a fan, because there's so much uncertainty at the football club.
Cal, is it worse than when we got relegated the first time? So that was 2009.
It's worse than both relegations combined, mate. It's worse than the 6 defeats in a row to Sunderland. It's the worst feeling I've had as a fan in a long time, because Rafa at the state, the club wanted ambition. He wanted a little bit of progression to compete with the top 8. And if you think about it, the 3 years, everyone watching on the stream, everyone listening, we didn't need much to get to that point. We had a good team. We needed a couple of decent players put in to compete with our top 8, the likes of Wolves, West Ham, Everton, those type of teams. We were a couple of players away, and all Rafa wanted was about maybe 60 million to compete with these teams, and Ashley sold them up the river. At the end of the season, a week after the season had finished, Rafa told him the demands weren't met, and he said he wasn't staying on. And they've had 2 months, and we're at this point now where we've got no manager, we're in pre-season, we're in China now, there's no manager, there's no new players, 2 players have left, free loans have ended, contracts have run out. We're a far weaker team than any team in the Premier League. We're linked with a manager far worse than any other manager in the Premier League, and fans are at each other's throats. It's a mess.
Well, let's talk about the manager. Let's call him the chosen one, shall we? Steve Bruce.
Currently
manager.
Words.
Sorry, Carl?
I could think of other words to describe Steve Bruce, but unfortunately I'd have to raise the rating for this show.
Oh dear, this could be fun. Well, Steve Bruce is still the manager of Sheffield Wednesday, and he is unconfirmed as Newcastle manager. They're still thrashing out a compensation package for him and his assistant, Steve Agnew, and also Stephen Clements. The original quoted money that Newcastle were apparently made to pay to get them out of their contracts was about £1 million. However, they are demanding about £5 million to get all 3 of them out of the contract and bring them to Newcastle, which is holding up the deal. There's no update. There's been no update today. We're expecting something tomorrow or in the next few days. I mean, how can the club not have known how much it was going to cost to get a manager out of his contract?
Well, if they're going to be potentially spending £5 million on Steve Bruce, why did they not just pay an extra £1 million for a far better manager in Rafa Benitez? Because that's what he was on last year, or the last 3 years. He was on £6 million a year at Newcastle. So for me, that doesn't make sense. But it's just typical Newcastle. From what you've heard, Steve Bruce wasn't even Newcastle's first choice this week.
Sixth.
Never mind when Rafa Benitez actually officially left the football club. He wasn't even first choice this week.
Steve Bruce's Blackburn Army.
So it's just an absolute mess. But they're trying to do it by the cheap, but the way they do it, like Mike actually does it with players, like Mike actually does it with game, with Sports Direct, with everything. So no, there's no surprise there. But we're at a stage now. We're probably going to have to pay over the odds for a manager, because we need a manager. We're desperate.
I mean, Carl, like Lee Charnley, since Rafa got announced that he was leaving, it's coming up to 3 weeks ago now. I think it was. The club, according to reports, knew maybe a bit of time before that he wasn't going to be the manager for the forthcoming season. So if we say 3.5, maybe even 4 weeks now that they've known that they need a new manager, how come it has taken this long? Apparently, Lee Charnley went on a tour of Europe and came back to suggest the man from Sheffield Wednesday. How have we got to this point? How could it have gotten this far down the line? We still have a manager. The squad's in China.
It's the hierarchy of the football club. Like, you've just look down the years of just failure on failure on failure. I mean, take it back a couple of years ago before we hired Benitez. I mean, do you remember when we lost 3-1 to Bournemouth and how long it took for it to sack Steve McLaren and then bring Benitez in? It nearly took a tomato season just to get rid of Steve McLaren. Do you know what I mean? It's like the club just. It's like if they went any slower, they'd stop. It's ridiculous. They go in slow motion and they just take liberty with absolutely everything. They take the time, and at the minute, time's at the essence. They've had 2 months to appoint a manager. And I mean, Lee Charnley went on a tour of Europe. I'm not sure what he was doing. I think he's like found a beach and just sat there for a couple of months. But in terms of where we're standing for a manager, Steve Bruce, like, really?
Jonny, I'll throw this question back to you. So the reports are coming out, sort of a couple of articles are sort of getting some details about what Steve Bruce is being negotiated for. Apparently about a £1 million a year as a wage, which would make him the worst paid manager in the Premier League. However, if he was to stay up and every subsequent position he would get above finishing 17th, he would get a massive bonus. So it's estimated that if he finished around 12th, his end up payout for the year would be around about similar to Rafa Benitez's wage. What do you make of
that? Smart by the club, smart by Ashley. I don't think Steve Bruce will be too happy because I think the compensation is probably the reason why they've had to do this. If the compensation was £1 million, you could probably say his overall salary would be £3 million roughly, £3.5 million, which will be probably fair enough for a Premier League manager nowadays. I know it's not back pocket change, but in football terms. But
I've said this already, Jonny. If they want him, they're going to pay.
Exactly. This is
get it over and done with.
He's obviously the man they want now. After the last few weeks,
4, 5, 6,
but
7.
I think they're so desperate they're probably going to have to pay. I'll be so surprised by tomorrow night if I haven't heard that Newcastle have paid their compensation to Sheffield Wednesday.
Perez, they've got the money there, just pay it.
Do we have the money there though, Lee?
Of course we do.
Of course we do. But it's all wallpaper at Yarram, you know what I mean? So
that's a lovely wallpaper, kind
of. Yeah, well, it's better than Mike Ashley's wallpaper.
Better than mine, probably.
At least I've seen this wallpaper because I haven't seen Mike Ashley's in 12 years.
Is it real? Is it money?
It's definitely real wallpaper, but Mike Ashley's is not. It's just a farce. It's a big story.
If they want him, Kyle, they'll pay it. Simple as that. Stop haggling over 1 million. That's now in Premier League terms. You've got 4 or 5 million for 3 lads. It's a 3 Steves, innit? Just pay it and get them over the line, then at least you can try and have, I know you want to bring this up later, Will, a little bit of stability amongst the club, because it's desperate that we need a manager appointed and we can move on. Well, not move on, that's not the right way. I mean, go into the season with a little bit of stability.
Lee, is Steve Bruce a good manager?
For the Championship, yes he is. You probably you put him in the kettle of fish of maybe a Neil Warnock, not quite Premier League, but he's great at the Championship. Does well, top 6 regularly.
It's better than that for me.
Yeah,
I think so. I think
the only job he's done well is Sunderland when he took him down.
Well, for me, you look at the teams that he's managed. He did it. I thought he did a good job with Wigan. Birmingham was a bit up and down, but he got them promoted. Got a couple of good seasons in the Prem. Yes, he got them relegated, but got them straight back up as well. With Hull City, you'd have to say that was a good job. If you look at the size of the club of Hull, got them promoted. Kept them in the division for a couple of years, got them to an FA Cup final. Yes, got relegated, but got them back up as well. So he's better than Neil Warnock.
Is he?
I think he is. I think he's
better than Neil Warnock. I don't think so.
I think he is.
I think Neil Warnock's funny, I suppose.
He is, but as Neil Warnock's been in the Premier League twice, hasn't kept the team up. Steve Bruce has, and Steve Bruce has done it okay to an extent.
Neil Warnock's not a yes man.
I
think he would.
I think Steve Bruce has turned out to be a yes man.
I think Warnock would fight back. I think at first when he went to Cardiff, he had the carry on with the owner. And he was changing the colour of the kit and everything, but if something went wrong at that club, I don't think Neil Warnock would hold back. I think Steve Bruce would.
But it's always going to go wrong. As soon as a manager will say, "Oh, I want progression. I'd like to move up a level from mediocrity," then you're going to face trouble because this ownership doesn't like the word progression. Like He said in interviews in the past, Ashley, I'll not leave to win a trophy. You need to push the boat out and show ambition to win a trophy.
I don't think Steve Bruce will. I think he's got this dream job and he's happy just to keep Newcastle in the Premier League. There's the boxes ticked.
But that's what Ashley wants.
It just shows the rumoured contract that Will mentioned before. If you finish 17th, you get this. But if you have a position above that, or you get a little bit more. It's like
a job. It's like a job with commission. So like you get your basic salary, and then you get, if you do a little bit
like
better.
A salesman.
Yeah, it's basically like a salesman, and you get commission from it. I think that's how he's playing it. Which, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But it's still £1 million. I would leave tomorrow for £1 million. But it's a tough job.
Considering the job that needs to be done, isn't that what we're looking for the club just to be stable? I mean, obviously there's been all this speculation about takeover, which we'll get onto later on, and we talk about every other minute. But isn't the job right now to stabilise the club and just to get it sort of floating above water?
The problem is, Will, it's not stable because Rafa Benitez is gone.
Yeah.
It's in. You just asked the question earlier on there. Is this the worst I've felt, or the worst that the club's been in 24 years supporting the club? Definitely. It's at the all-time low. Yes, I know you might have other fans and the EEs will say different, but for my time in 24 years, this is by far the worst I felt. I feel worse now than when we were relegated. And everyone's seen us on YouTube almost bubbling, blah, 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 but this is generally the worst I feel being a Newcastle fan at the minute.
I completely agree. It's just a whirlwind. We went from being linked with Kylian Mbappe to having Mourinho as manager, to then being linked with Scott Dann, to being linked with Steve Bruce.
Lee Cattermole next.
And Lee Cattermole on the horizon.
Yeah,
so
we'll wait for that, won't we?
It's just such a disappointing summer, and honestly, I can see it getting worse with the likes of Shaw being linked to Tottenham the day, Dubravka being rumoured to be away. Would it surprise you if any of these players wanted away? Because the way it should be is Newcastle have had 2 mid-table finishes in the past 2 seasons. You look at Newcastle and you should think Newcastle are a mid-table team at the moment, a stable Premier League club. But with what Ashley's done the past couple of months, getting rid of Rondon, Perez, Diarmi, Kennedy, and then getting rid of Rafa Benitez, all of a sudden we're now a relegation candidate. And you look at the likes of Aston Villa that came up, spent over 100 million. You look at Norwich, who's broke the transfer record, made differences to the training ground. You look at these teams, and you look at we as Newcastle fans shouldn't be looking at Norwich with envy. Do you know what I mean? We're a much bigger club than Norwich City. No disrespect to them, but
look at Aston Villa, they're going crazy, aren't they?
Aston Villa
4 centre backs and going.
But we cannot and we will not compete with Manchester City. I think we need to look at the basics and compete with Aston Villa and Southampton and these types of teams, because at the minute we're going to get relegated.
Graham Carr's rumour to be back as well.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get onto that in a minute. But it's just on your screens if you're watching along on YouTube. Do you think the fans will accept Steve Bruce just to get a manager?
No.
I don't think they will, because it's not Rafa Benitez, but it's nobody even in the similar calibre to Rafa Benitez, and I think that's what Newcastle fans will look at. I think personally Steve Bruce, it's going to be a shame because he is a bit of a yes man now if he does take this job. Do I blame him taking this job? I don't, because we're a much bigger club than Sheffield Wednesday.
One thing you can say is that you wouldn't turn this down.
No, of course you would. You wouldn't turn a Premier League job down. He gets to be closer back home to his family as well.
Sorry to interject, but if you think about it and you look at the shortlist that apparently was compiled by the management and all the people that have been in the process, we even seen Sam Allardyce turn the job down. Yeah, we know that he was in the job before and that obviously didn't work out. But do you think if Steve Bruce wasn't a Newcastle supporter as a child and didn't grow up 50 miles away, do you think he would have taken this job?
Yeah.
The pull's still there, but then again, there's another question. Would any of the other 19 teams in the Premier League went for Steve Bruce if they had an unemployed manager right now?
I personally think if you're Sheffield United, well, Sheffield United. I was going to say Sheffield United, but he's manager of Sheffield Wednesday at the minute. But I think teams like Norwich, maybe even a Burnley, I think would take a gamble on Steve Bruce, because I think it's probably a 50-50 chance that he could keep them up, and I think some clubs would take that chance.
Earlier, Johnny, like you said, if you look at the jobs that he's done, if we take more recent history, Hull, he stabilised the club in the midst of turmoil, especially from the owner, where we heard that before. Aston Villa, they started really badly in the Championship under Di Matteo, got them, stabilised them. Next season, they were very unlucky not to get promoted into the Premier League, then they fell away. He has got a good record of stabilising, and even stabilising clubs in the Premier League. For Birmingham, and you look at Wigan.
Yeah, I think you look at the Villa job in particular. He came in, the club had spent a lot of money. None of his players, by the way. He was then on a budget of £1 million, and he brought in a couple of loan players, Sam Johnston, one player who had an exceptional season at Villa, and they were very, very unlucky. Obviously, personal problems as well. He's lost his mum and his dad within the space of 3 months. He was coming back from Newcastle to Birmingham every week, and they just missed out on the playoffs to a Fulham team that were in a bit of an absolute fantastic run of form.
He paid for the job. He didn't get promoted, so he got sacked.
He did.
He's got to get them up.
He did.
Aston Villa, for me, on the same level in terms of size as Newcastle. Probably.
But when you take the concept of the Championship and what that league's like...
But he should be getting that club up. If we go down, I expect Newcastle to come straight back up. Doesn't matter what players we've got, because it's the name, it's the size of the club, the amount of high calibre players you can still bring in the higher end of the Championship. It's a failure not getting
You're going to be disappointed in a couple of seasons.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. You look
but
at.
It's
You
a
look
failure.
at.
I didn't get them up.
Yeah, but possibly you might have a point with that. But you look at this. Arguably, clubs similar size to Newcastle, likes of Leeds, Nottingham Forest, that have been down there for God knows how many years. There's no just undenied right because of the size of the club you are that you'll get straight back in the Premier League. Look at Villa. Look at Sheffield Wednesday. Look at Sheffield Wednesday. They've been in the Championship for 20 years.
Yeah, Leeds United.
One of the
biggest clubs in England.
Exactly.
Even when you think back to Newcastle in the Championship under Rafa Benitez, it wasn't necessarily comfortable, was it? And that's with a world-class manager.
It was a horrible season.
We spent a lot of money on the players that we did. You know, we arguably had the most expensive squad in the Championship that season.
Net profit, though.
Net profit, very true, but still, like, you know, we threw a lot of money
I
that we
agree on that,
generated.
because the amount of times after the game, me and you were doing videos, and we were just like, please, we won that. It was all about 1-0, getting up, let's just win, doesn't matter.
1-0 over Burton, I've never celebrated a goal more in my life.
Don't get me going
that
on
referee
about
decision, oh my God.
It shows how competitive the Championship is, and it's not an easy job to get out of it.
But he should have got Villa promoted first time last.
But to be fair, he's got Hull up, he got Birmingham up.
He got Hull up twice.
Yeah, and he got Birmingham
He's been
up
promoted more
as well,
than any
twice
other
as
manager
well.
from the Championship, to be fair.
I thought Neil Warnock has.
No,
It'd be very close between the two. Be very
Warnock's
close.
got 8 or 9
I
in
think
his
it is
career.
Neil Warnock, to be fair.
Yeah.
Well, do you also think that, I think we've already touched upon this, but I'm going to revisit, does it just show a bit of lack of professionalism from Newcastle to approach a manager at this stage where his team are playing games in pre-season? He was at Lincoln yesterday, Steve Bruce, managing Sheffield Wednesday, trying to get him out of a contract and, you know, having already had negotiations with him. And isn't the Sheffield Wednesday board, aren't they right to dig their heels in and be like, no, because we've given him a contract, we've promised him.
They've got to prepare for a pre-season as well, and like they've started theirs, Lincoln, and they played some other team around there yesterday. It's just one problem after another, and the word unprofessionalism is a word I've used to describe the entire hierarchy of Newcastle United for the past 12 long years, which is unprofessional. They haven't got a clue. I think, honestly, the four of us sitting at this table could run that team, run that club better than they could. And honestly, I'm not even joking. It's like...
I'd love to see who was manager.
Forward. Not being funny, lads, but I think I'd take that on. Currently, football manager, 7th season, Europa League. I'm qualified for that job, I'm afraid. But
Can I ask
it in a Total Cup days, man? I'll even take that now. That's ambition right there.
Can I ask a question? Would you, if you had the choice between Chris Hughton and Steve Bruce, would you go for Chris Hughton?
Chris Hughton, but if Chris Hughton would be mad to come back, especially the way they tried him the first time. But Chris Hughton. Similar
with Sam Allardyce, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the second part, is that he didn't want it either. So
poison chalice.
It's difficult because you look at the likes of Chris Hughton, Sam Allardyce, Steve Bruce, David Moyes, you know, those sort of managers.
Don't mention David Moyes, please.
I know. We will in a minute.
I know, but those sort of managers, those sort of caliber managers, it's like a safe.
Dinosaurs what?
It's like a safe bet, isn't it? That's what you have to look at, Kyle, isn't it?
David Moyes nearly got West Ham relegated a couple of years ago after spending 60 million. I don't think so. I don't think he's a safe bet. And look what he did to Sunderland.
Well, we'll get onto that in a minute, but before that, we're going to go on a quick little break before we come back and talk a little bit more about Newcastle's manager plight.
Addiction, it sucks. Let me get drunk, I've messed my life up. Staring at the shadow of the man I become. It's just too late. Falling apart, each nudge in the brain knocks me out of place, not working the pain. The tough love ish has nothing on fakes. I seem to leave the lips shut. There's no pennies left to wish me luck. On my journeys, on my path, it's a one-way ticket. Now in Darkland, clouds, smoke, big red skies. Satan made me an offer in life. He said, if I don't suffer, I belong here. If you choose to believe, then your life's in fear. I'm on a dark path, I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. I'm on a dark path, I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. It's all out of control when the mind kicks in. It's hard to stay afloat when the mind turns bad. It's hard to uphold. I've gassed myself out. It's hard to keep mold. Deception, it's all lies and fabrication. In my life I never got confirmation of whether I should be. I add up the mass but I get the same answers. The grief and the pain, change my lane, change my mind. It's mess with my brain, but doesn't matter. I don't need a hand, I don't need chatter. You're in your own leagues but I'm not invited. Stood at the path between calm and violence, waving at the person I once was, but they never look back. Nah, not once. Laying in bed, tossing and turning, thinking, twisting, my head is hurting. Each bone inside my structure's burning. Why is it me? 'Cause I didn't deserve this. The novelty's worn off, clinging for hope in the past now lost. Real life-ish, I feel like an orphan, playing around with a life like an organ. Death is my one desire. Only thing that makes sense, my life is satire. Only right that people just laugh. My pain's been public, it's now on blast. I'll just move out of the way for the key to be found. I do gotta pray. I am the villain, I am the cause, I am the problem without the laws. I'm on a dark path, I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. I'm on a dark path, I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. Come test me, man, better square up, Joe. Head side, stomach get bust up. 'Cause I didn't ask for you, you're just there 'cause you want to. You little attention seeker, posting on FB next to the tweeter. Furthermore, you mess with the tweakers, sat with the snakes I call familiar. Oh look, more keyboard warriors, thinking they know their ins and outs. Proud to be a fake, what's that about? You can't sit in my place, what you on about? Nah, what you on about? Talking crap about me, what you on about? Tapping on phone keys, what you on about? Screw you snakes, I'll give you the runabout. I'm on a dark path, I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. I'm on a dark path, I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance.
Back to Nova Radio Northeast on 102.5 FM with Newcastle Fans TV on the Football Fan Zone. In the first part we talked about Steve Bruce and we're going to continue talking about him and also the general managerial situation.
Steve
at
Bruce,
Newcastle,
Best mate.
Yeah, or lack of it, let's go with. Trying to get some positivity out of you guys because it's been a bit downbeat so far in the show. Lee, I know you've touched upon this. If Bruce is appointed, can we take a positive in the fact that Newcastle will finally have a manager and we can move forward?
That's it, Will, you just said it. We have a manager, well, we don't yet technically, but in the next 24, 40 hours we should have a manager, and then at least it has, I want to say stability, but this is Newcastle United that we're talking about. Look, I think if he is appointed the manager, my only worry, now, and it's going to go back to negativity, because that's just being honest, Will, is that who's picking the managers, who's picking the players to come in? Is it Bruce? Is he having the full say of it? Is it Steve Nixon? Is it Jonny? there's talk of Graham Carr. We just do not want Graham Carr back. Bruce has to be allowed to make mistakes if he's appointed, and he has to be allowed to go and get the right players. He's got a history of getting some good players. Harry Maguire, Andrew Robertson springs to mind straight away. But then there's the failings, I think, of Hatton Ben Arthur.
But do you think Ben Arthur at that time, he just wasn't fancied by anybody? I mean, we pretty much released him that year.
He went into Newcastle training about 2 stone overweight, and everyone hated Pardew that much at the time. They still sided with Ben Arthur, even though he came into training for 2.5 stone overweight, and it was like...
But then, did you see the season he had the following season?
Yeah, but he did play for Hull. He did play for Hull that season and really didn't do anything. I remember trying to find anything that he did at Hull, and they were all saying nah, he's just unfit and not doing well.
They played Man United Hull, and he got taken off after 37 minutes.
Yeah.
And Steve Bruce is manager, and you just think, ooh, that doesn't look too good. I don't think he was injured either, so he obviously just didn't take a liking to him.
That's fair enough, but I mean, Kyle, how much time do you think Steve Bruce can really be afforded?
At the
or
club?
Will be afforded by, firstly, the club, and secondly, by the fans?
I mean, there's some fans that won't give him a chance at all, but I've said this before, I'd give him a chance. If he comes in clean slate, I'd judge him on what he's going to do at Newcastle United. I'm not going to judge him anywhere else.
Remember when McLaren said, judge me after 10 games?
Joe Kenny judged me on my signings and he signed like Remy on loan. But yeah, I'd judge Steve Bruce. The one positive I'll probably take is he's from up here. He knows the football club. He probably knows what's going on from watching from afar. His heart will be in the right place, but you could put me as manager and my heart will be in the right place. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of them. There's not many positives to take. It's very much a gamble, like Mike Ashley tends to do a lot. He likes his gambling, and he's gambling Newcastle's Premier League survival on a manager that hasn't managed in the Premier League for several years, and when he last managed in the Premier League, very average. So,
Jonny, the club seem very prepared to spend some money, how much we'll find out in the near future, to get Steve Bruce from Sheffield Wednesday. But after being rejected by Sam Allardyce, and there was clearly a short list of which they worked through all of them, which included Roberto Martinez, Steven Gerrard, Patrick Vieira, and Mikel Arteta, which was names that I think we talked about on last week's show. Is Steve Bruce the best available?
No, definitely not. I think there are better managers out there.
And discounting like Jose Mourinho and
no,
all
I mean,
that.
are you talking about? Are you just talking about people that are not in jobs?
Well, talking about people who we could realistically target. I mean, Lee touched on it in the first half, that saying that the attraction of a Premier League job should be enough. But then again, Steven Gerrard was at Rangers and he didn't want anything to know about Newcastle.
I think it was more to do with the fact that you'd have to work with an owner like Mike Ashley. I think that would put him off. I think it puts a lot of people off. But I think that if you're looking, it's weird because they've gone for two totally different type of managers. When you're talking about Arteta and Gerrard and Vieira, it's like head coaches.
It just shows you it's the cluelessness.
It is, but
it's football. It's non-footballing men making footballing decisions.
It is
what you get.
It definitely. But when you look at the type of manager they're going for now, they're going for an experienced head who can just pretty much survive this season. I think personally, if you're going to pay about $5 million for Steve Bruce, why not go for Sean Dyche? Yes, it's a lot more money, but he's going to guarantee. He's more of a guarantee to improve Newcastle than Steve Bruce is. Yes, it's a lot of money. But he's someone that will understand how the Premier League works. He'll understand where you'll need to pick up important points, and you're going to give him a couple of years, which I think Newcastle fans realistically have got to give Bruce at least a season. But if it gets to a stage like McLaren and we can't afford to give him the season, then fair enough. But is he to answer your question, is he the best available? No. But I think that I would say there's only maybe Houghton, Dyche potentially who would maybe leave Burnley, but I don't see him leaving.
What about Claude Puel?
No.
Oh dear.
I mean,
just no.
Nothing.
Why?
He sent to me to sleep just by talking.
Keeps you up though.
Doesn't he send him to sleep? Doesn't keep you up. Hey! Rather like that one, won't he? Back it home.
To be fair though, he's got a good track record of having teams in the top half of the league, and I know it's defensive football again, but I think it's defensive football that has kept winning the league for 2 seasons in a row.
Would you not describe him as solid?
Would you not take a League Cup final in 8th place finish?
I would.
With boring football? Because I would.
But you're going to need a better squad to do that than this one.
Oh, no, that. But I'm just looking what he did at Southampton, where he lost players. I'm not saying a Claude Puel Black and White Army or anything, but if you're judging him from what he's done in English football, Leicester, yes, the football wasn't great, but they were never in a relegation battle. In Southampton, they were never going down either. They were top half. So I think he's been a bit it's been a bit unjust with him, especially with Leicester, with a difficult few months, especially with the owner dying in very, very tragic circumstances as well.
Leicester fans didn't really want club.
They didn't, no. No.
Yeah, they did.
That's true. When you look at Brendan Rodgers and what he's doing there, like they are sort of taking on another level. A lot of people are sort of saying that they could break into the top 6 if they keep their squad together. But Claude Puel, there was never, again, like Jonny said, there was never really any danger. If that's what we're looking for, surely he's someone that you would look to bring in.
And he's free.
True. If he got appointed ahead of Bruce, I'd probably be slightly happier. I wouldn't be like.
Don't get us wrong. It's not gonna. I'm not gonna be jumping up and down with excitement if he was appointed. But wouldn't you think he's a bit more of a stable choice than Steve Bruce, than David Moyes, than them type of managers? I wouldn't want Claude Puel, no way. But I think he's a safer option, and I think he's good at building on good defences. I mean, he had Van Dijk in that at Southampton, and Yoshida together, and then at Leicester he's had Maguire and the likes of Jonny Evans and that. So he's good at building a team around a defence, and the one thing Newcastle still have intact is a decent defence. So,
Lee, why haven't Newcastle got a manager for free? Why are they going after someone who's in a job?
Because they know that will want it.
because
Simple as that. Because Steve Bruce will want this, being a local lad. Born in Corbridge, grew up in Wallsend, even got rejected by the club as a player, made his name elsewhere. Yes, I know he's managed Sunderland, which Newcastle fans are going to look at straight away, but, you know, DeAndre Edlin's played for them, Key, Colback, Manquillo. If Steve Agnew comes in, there's another one. We just nicked one of their coaches from the youth setup. We are literally morphing into Sunderland. And that's the reason why Bruce will want this job, not because of the Sunderland connection, but because he will say, yes, I'll have it, I'll take that, thank you very much, it's his dream job. If you offered it to Alan Shearer, he would say no, but it's his dream job. I think that's because what Kyle, you were saying before, his previous managers would say no to this because of Mike Ashley, and that's the fact that Shearer wouldn't come back. Chris Hughton, don't know about that. Pardew, possibly. Maybe Pardew might, but
Pardew would come back, in my opinion.
I don't think he would.
Really?
No, I think for me, it was toxic at times, and I don't think he needs the hassle.
All the time.
I don't think he needs the hassle, to be honest with you. I think especially the fact that West Brom, he didn't do a great job. The fans certainly wouldn't take to him. After Rafa Benitez, they wouldn't take to him. I'd rather have Bruce than Pardew. Not because I think the one's better than the other, but I just think it would be toxic for him. I really do. I don't like to hate many things, but that could be really bad.
I'm going to put a graphic on my top 3 picks, you know, as I do.
Top 3 picks? I
didn't know
we were doing top 3 picks.
Who would be your top 3 picks if you had the, realistically as well, don't just go Klopp and all that. Who would be your top 3? So, I'll start mine, put it on the graphic. See, I've said I think Bielsa. I think we could get Bielsa, because it's a Premier League side. Yes, I know he signed a contract with Leeds, but I think Bielsa would do a job. And I think he would come to the Premier League, and I think he would walk away from Leeds. I don't think he's got any, what's the word, loyalty. Well, we definitely know that because he's Spygate. But he's got
his personality work in that
setup? I think we'll love him.
No, but in the setup of Ashley and Chandler. Bit of a maverick.
Maybe his love child interpreter will do that for him. Maybe. I don't know. But I think another one's Gus Hiddink. I think he's your sure option because the club is an absolute mess at the moment. I think Gus Hiddink for the season could do us some. I don't think he would be relegation. I think he'd have a mid-table, but he gets the best. If you look at his
Dwight Gale up front.
Yeah, why not? Gus Hiddink's work. Look at South Korea. He got in the semi-final of the World Cup, so he's done some marvellous things in his career. That would be my short option, but in the long term, I'll go with Eddie Howe. I know that's a big if, leaving Bournemouth, but there's only a certain amount of. These are my ideal 3 picks, though. Yeah. I'm going to disagree on your 3 picks in a minute, but Eddie Howe for long term because he'll look at Bournemouth and think, no one as I've took the club so far how far can he realistically get there? Maybe a Europa League spot. That'll be it. You cannot do any more than that. So for me, in an ideal world, any of those 3 in random order, I would have any of those 3 in a heartbeat.
Kyle,
I'd want an attacking manager, maybe just to shake it up a little bit because we're going to be terrible next season, so we might as well
Eddie Howe is
go down swinging. I'd want Eddie Howe, but why would he leave Bournemouth to come here? Like he'd need a psychiatrist after coming here to leave Bournemouth for us.
But surely to stay out next season, we need someone who will solidify that team. I mean, Rafa built that team to be defensive, and it worked.
I mean, you can go one or two ways. You can go with an attacking manager, or you can try and keep the same kind of philosophies Rafa had at the club. Claude Puelpi, one of me three. I mean, it's not
Well,
overwhelming.
really, your top three, realistic.
Realistically, who else? I'd want Eddie Howe, but he wouldn't be in my top three because I don't think he'd entertain me. I mean, Jonny, who would you go for realistically?
Sounds like
Bielsa.
fan of me, don't you?
No. Bielsa would be one that I would definitely consider. I think for me, yes, Leeds fans adore him, but it's not a Premier League job.
Yeah, he'd
And
walk, wouldn't he?
I think he would go, but I don't know. You don't know how managers think these days. But I think Bielsa's worth a shout. I think. Do you know what? I would have loved to have gone for Gerrard. I think Gerrard would have been a really fascinating appointment. Yes, he doesn't guarantee a Premier League survival, but he gains the respect of the players straight away. There's a willingness to win. He wants best. He wants the best for everything. He doesn't accept second best. I think attitude-wise, that would change as well. It wouldn't be that much of a transition for people to look up to a manager or a person. When you look at Rafa Benitez to Steven Gerrard, yes, obviously once had a lot more managerial experience, but again, would he leave Rangers? I don't know. I think it's
Not under Ashley.
Not under Ashley.
If we had a different owner, you could go in.
I think he would go. I think if it's the Premier League, isn't it? I think obviously you can make up this rubbish that I'd only go to the Premier League if it was Liverpool. But Jurgen Klopp isn't leaving Liverpool anytime soon. So I think Gerrard would be one that I would definitely consider. But I think for a safe pair of hands, you're gonna have to look at someone like Chris Hughton. I think knows the club, managed the club under Ashley, knows what it's going to be like. I think Ashley kind of regrets the way he handled the Hughton situation looking back. Did well at Norwich, did well at Birmingham's, done well at Brighton. I thought he was very harshly treated at Brighton, so
Kept Brighton up.
he did. And
That's all their aim is.
But
that's no disrespect to Brighton fans.
But for Brighton as well, they did sometimes. They weren't happy with the football, but it's Brighton at the end of the day, and he got into an FA Cup semi-final. I'd love to go and see Newcastle play an FA Cup semi-final at Wembley. So I think any of those three, all different, of course, but if I had to put a realistic swing on it, I think Hughton would probably be more realistic out of the three.
Well, two names that have come up. I know I'm going to get on to Carl's reaction to this one in a minute, but I want to start with Jonny, who's got a bit more of a calmer head. Do you think David Moyes would be able to keep Newcastle in the Premier League?
It's a risk. I think it's the same as Bruce. Maybe slightly more of a chance.
If we go off his previous time at West Ham, he actually improved them.
He did,
to a
yeah.
degree. It wasn't where they wanted to go, and they always knew it would be a short-term appointment, but he did do well for that squad.
Yeah, I look, again, it's another safe appointment. Again, former Sunderland manager, which is going to have a little bit of an impact in it as well. I think for me, again, it is a good short-term appointment if they were to go there. But he's just got a very, I don't know if it sounds bad, but he's got like a boring attitude. It's just kind of like
Claude Puel.
Possibly, but I don't know. But he's like the French David Moyes, maybe, I don't know. But
doesn't like being interviewed by women.
That didn't go down too well. But if you look at his style of football, he can sometimes get good results or half decent results, and he did a fantastic job at Everton. Manchester United, I don't think anybody could have came in after Sir Alex Ferguson and done a good job. It was always going to be the guy after the guy after Moyes, well, the guy after Ferguson. So yeah, he's done okay. He's had a mixed bag. He's been to Spain and he's probably learnt a few bits and bobs, but at the minute I don't think Newcastle's the right job for the right man.
Do you think he's only probably like one place down from Steve Bruce?
I think he's probably one place up from Steve Bruce, to be honest.
Do you think he turned it down?
He turned it down before we went for Benitez a few years ago.
He did. Yeah, he did. I think difficult circumstances. I think he probably thought he couldn't keep them up. I don't think he would believe that he could keep Newcastle up with 8 games to go and the games that we had left. I don't think he was up for the fight. It'd be a different kettle of fish because the season's just starting. Clean slate. Judge me after 12 games. Judge me till Christmas, and we'll see where we are. But I would probably expect David Moyes to keep us up, but I wouldn't expect it to be a very fashionable way of doing it because I think it's going to be a very tough watch. But I think he would probably keep us 15th or 16th, a bit like where Brighton have been this most of the season.
Lee, what about Quique Sanchez-Flores?
I prefer him over David Moyes. Definitely. It's got a bit of
Watford FA Cup. What was it? FA Cup semi-final. Finished 13th in the Premier League with a new squad. just came into very close before the season started.
Well, Watford were going for that transition of firing and hiring every year, weren't they?
There's still a lot, to be fair.
Yeah.
So
That was in their first season in the Premier League.
And I think
as
he's done
They
well.
did
And I
very
think
well.
he's got a bit of swagger, and he's not afraid to go into any club. He's a bit of a wanderer, so he'll move from club to club, quite similar to Michael Laudrup, where they're never in a job more than 18 months. They've always got a new job somewhere across the globe. But I would probably prefer him because I think he would try to play attacking football. I know Benitez has been criticised for that, but Benitez got results. But I think Flores will probably try and play football on the ground on the eye pretty. And there is that saying, you'd rather get beat 4-3 than win ugly 1-0. Sometimes, yeah. I think that's the only difference. I think you'll get a bit of a style of football with him.
Well, just before we get on to a break, guys, will Steve Bruce do a good job? Yes or no? If he's to be appointed, this is unconfirmed, of course.
If he keeps us up, it's a good appointment. It's a yes, because that is what Mike Ashley wants, and that is to keep us up in the division. Anything else than that, then no. But I think he needs to get off to a good start, and the fixtures that we've got, it's half good, half bad. I'd like to think by the time we've played Leicester, you'd like to expect maybe 2 wins minimum from 7 games, and I think that might give him more of a chance from the fans. But he's got to keep us up, and that is the bare minimum this season.
Kyle?
He needs signings. If that current team is what Steve Bruce has at the start of the season, we're going to be gone by February, mate. If he gets the 6 players that's rumoured, if he gets the 50 million war chest for the 3rd season in a row by the Chronicle, who've said that we'll get this, if he gets that, I mean, he could bring in his own players and then maybe he could keep winning the league, but you just don't know. So I'm going to say it depends on the board.
Lee?
If you hire him, you've got to go now and back him. So he has to be allowed to make those mistakes, allowed to bring in good players as well. He has to be allowed to do that rather than the board. But will he keep us up without any money being spent? No.
Right, well, join us after the break. We'll be talking transfers and everything that's, again, going on with Newcastle United team a bit.
My mind works subliminal, obsession, I work in rituals. For some reason I don't know why, I'm obsessed with 35. Maybe when I turn 35 there's gonna be something to ruin my life, or make my life, or end the life. There's gonna be something that's gonna be tragic. When I do mix black magic, comes to the grime, I carry that flagship. Chop then explode, draw for the mallet. Losing the plot, I have dot antics. I'm too obsessed, think so much that it's got me depressed. Just some peace is what I request, thinking I've died, get a bump on the chest. 35, so many numbers, 35. Same old pattern, same old drive. Wait for the day, then it will arrive, it will arrive. 35, so many numbers, 35. Same old pattern, same old drive. Wait for the day, then it will arrive, it will arrive. TV sheep when I act so cheap, digging in pockets, the price is steep. I've wasted my life, so I weep, hiding the shadows, the cracks in the creeks. New page, got a new sheet. Time for the harvest, draw for the wheat. I need to sit or give me your seat. I don't give a fuck cause you just tweet. Last day, let's get on the wine. Racing the dirt, but I ain't no swine. Major productions, look at the signs. 666, it's killing all light. Wolf thoughts, I just stare at the moon. You scrape to the bone, just I like your spoon. Hand of God, I summon dark glooms. Constant night time for pure noons. 35, so many numbers, 35. Same old pattern, same old drive. Wait for the day, then it will arrive, it will arrive. 35, so many numbers, 35. Same old pattern, same old drive. Wait for the day, then it will arrive, it will arrive. You can just slit my neck, I'm a sacrifice. Well, that seems to be all the hype. Not that font, nah, it's a new type. It's a new day, so I let go last night. Another track, so you know I gotta write. Even if I can't do it, I'll go all night. Box on my head, then bolt upright. You're uptight, and you've been advancing tonight. You know I don't f*** with love. It seems all push, but then no shove. Draw for the shoot, I put on the gloves. So when I do make you know you're being rushed. Pop! One to the head, drop. Nah, man, I got dead. Stop. One come for the neck. Work up a storm without a sweat. 35, so many numbers. 35, same old pattern, then it will arrive. It will arrive. 35, so many numbers. 35, same old pattern, same old drive. Wait for the day, then it will arrive.
Bit of local hero there on Nova Radio Northeast on 102.5 FM. Welcome back to the Football Fan Zone. In the previous section of the show, we were talking about Newcastle's prospective new manager, maybe manager in waiting. We're now going to talk about a previous one. So it came out this week after an interview on TalkSport that Sam Allardyce was approached for the position. Obviously, he had a period at Newcastle around about a decade ago now, I believe, under Mike Ashley, but he turned it down. Lee, I wasn't there for the Sam Allardyce era. What did you make of this news?
Wait, were you like, Will? Were you
I was around
were
for
you
the
not
Sam.
produced or
I remember his
something?
first game away at Bolton.
Did Mummy and Daddy,
I was more interested in Formula 1 at the time.
did Mummy and Daddy not, get it on, and along came Minnie Will? When he was first appointed, only the takeover was done literally a couple of months beforehand, not even that. And Sam Allardyce coming to the club because he done one hell of a job at Bolton. Brilliant job at Bolton. Some of the players that he had there were special players like Joe Kayev, JJ Kocher, man.
Kevin Nolan.
No, JJ Kocher was some player.
Yeah, I know.
Fernando Hierro, Ivan Campo, Jaskelainen was an alright goalkeeper. So he built a good team, got them in Europe and Elka as well. So when
I think it's Calvin Davies.
So when he came,
Kevin.
Kevin 2-2 draw at Bayern Munich, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, when he came to Newcastle, I was like, we've got a good manager here.
Yeah.
But I think he was criticised for the way that he played the football. It was very direct and it wasn't Newcastle's way. And to be fair, and I'm not sticking up for him, but to be sacked and mid-table is probably a little bit unjustified. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we're seeing a carry on with Mike Ashley, Kevin Keegan and all that came later. But even Sam Allardyce knows that he wouldn't go back to Newcastle, and that tells you something about, again, we've talked about Mike Ashley and managers not wanting to go. Sam Allardyce is guaranteed to keep you in that Premier League, and we need to stay in the Premier League. Unfortunately, that's our ambition coming up this year, which is a bit deflating, unfortunately. But he would have kept us up. Rob's a fan of him. I'm not personally.
I'm not, but I'd prefer him over Steve Bruce.
I would have prefer Allardyce over Bruce any day of the week.
He's taking an upgrade on Steve Bruce. We've got like a B-rated Sam Allardyce.
He's guaranteed to keep you in the Premier League.
Why do you think he was approached?
Well, I think the club would have been fishing out who's interested in the job, and that's why his agent's gone to him as well. Thought about it, but he's turned around and said, no, it's not for me. So it just goes to show you, if he's turned it down, how many other people have turned it down, publicly that is, and privately in the same sense as well. So maybe into double figures, who knows. But would have been, the fans wouldn't have wanted him, but I'm with Kyle. I think he would have been a hell of a lot more a happier place if it was him ahead of Bruce. I think most fans will probably, and I'm just speculating, probably say 70-30 maybe 60-40 prefer Allardyce over Bruce.
Carl, why did Allardyce turn it down?
Because he's got sense. No, he's been with Ashley before. I mean, why would you want to go back to working with him? Like, seriously, you wouldn't. He's got no loyalty in Newcastle like Steve Bruce has. He's like Steve Bruce supports Newcastle, and he's got no reason to come back. He's got nothing to prove. Like, I think he's retired if I'm not mistaken. So no reason for Sam Allardyce to come out of retirement and feel the stress of Mike Ashley not being able to buy any players and having to struggle, because that's what we're going to be doing all season, struggle. So no reason for him to come out of retirement really, and he's done the right thing in saying no.
Jonny, your thoughts on Sam Allardyce?
When he first came in 2007, I was a bit like Lee, optimistic about it because he did a very good job at Bolton. But I think one little bit of information is that Sven-Göran Eriksson was also linked, or very heavily linked with the job around about the time that Sam Allardyce was wanting the job. So for me, he was second best in that one. But there was so many like rumours that who was going to be the next manager of Newcastle at that time. Now he's had more experience, but I don't know. For me, is he better than Bruce? Yes, because of the track record he's got. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I personally think that, again, if it's another excellent manager that we were linked with. So I don't know. I just personally think it's
Jack Ross
not.
Next.
Jack Ross will be the next one. I think Sam Allardyce for me.
Got to take him over Bruce.
he's better than Bruce, but I think Bruce would get a better reception than Allardyce, and that's saying something at the minute.
Do you think it's more for a short-term management thing that we're looking for? Management thing? That's not the right sentence I was looking for.
No, I think you're right. I think Steve Bruce is not here for the long term.
Yeah.
I think this is probably just a short, mid-term gap, maybe 2 years max. I'll give Steve Bruce good and bad times. I don't think it'll be here long. And again, looking at Steve Bruce's track record, bar a couple of clubs, he hasn't stayed very long, and he's not afraid, Steve Bruce, to upset the other rivals. He's been at both Sheffield clubs, Sunderland, now Newcastle, both Birmingham clubs. So he's not scared to jump ship.
Not much loyalty there.
No, but
he has been branded as the Sullen in the past.
I'm negative. I'm depressed. Can we move on to another topic?
Is there anything positive coming out of Newcastle?
We'll talk about transfers, shall we? So
that's negative as well.
Well, reports came out yesterday that Newcastle could be signing their first player, going by the name of Kyle Scott, coming in on a free from Chelsea. A midfielder, reported medical to happen in the next 24 hours. This one's potentially a move for the under-23 side and then transition to the first team, and was interestingly apparently lined up by Rafa Benitez before he left. Lee, as someone who covers the under-23s quite a lot, would this be a good signing for them? And is a midfielder someone that we need in that squad?
How can I put it this way? In one aspect, you want the first team sorted out first.
Mm-hmm.
So this story was run by Pete O'Rourke. Has it got legs? Possibly, but it's for the under-23s. Look, we don't know. I don't know much about the kids. What I do know is that if he's coming in, I expect him to probably play. I'm expecting Owen Bailey to go out on loan. So, but apart from that, I don't know much about him. 21 years of age, didn't make the grade at Chelsea. How long is he going to stick around at Newcastle?
To be fair, it's a long list of people that didn't make the list of Chelsea, but I did a little bit of research on him. He made the bench a couple of times under Antonio Conte in his second season. Got ahead of the likes of Loftus-Cheek and that, so there's got to be some talent there, I suppose. I mean, he can't be the worst, but
he's not going to be for the first team though. That's what we want.
I mean, remember Wall said this about Isaac Hayden. Wall said he'd be for the 223s as well, and he
did we?
Yeah, I did.
I don't remember saying
no,
that.
I don't remember saying that.
I remember saying that about Jose Perez when he first joined, and he made quite a big impact.
Yeah.
Do you think this could happen with this kid?
Well,
we are lacking.
So
we're lacking in centre midfields. We do need bodies then. You know, we've only got Longstaff, because the Army's obviously got a founder club. Longstaff, Shelby, Key. Hayden wants out, so possibly 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. It's too much to ask, I think, for a lad who hasn't played at top level. Look, I'm probably giving him a bit of just service, don't get me wrong, but this kid's more for the under-23s, because I think Owen Bailey will go out on loan.
Okay. The other news, this one came out more recently, is Joselu. So he was originally in the squad, named by Newcastle to go to China. However, last minute he was replaced by Elias Sorensen, with apparently a move to Alaves in La Liga on the cards. What do you people think about this? I mean, this one's been talked about for quite a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was always going to be the case that Joselu was going to leave the club one way or the other. Personally, I think it's the right decision regardless of the lack of numbers we've got, because he's not good enough. Simple as that. Dwight Gale's a little bit more different. I think he's more of a safe bet. Personally, for me, it's £1.5 million, and Rafa potentially could have had a lot more for Joselu in January, which for me is a bit weird. Why we didn't sell him in January, because we knew he wasn't good enough in January. We kind of knew in the first January we got him he wasn't good enough in Newcastle. So, yeah, it's weird, but we need reinforcements, and obviously the club's approach is, well, we need a manager to make these appointments, so the manager gets in the neck, not the board. I think that's the kind of approach they're going for, but it is a bit strange to say the least.
What if Steve Bruce turns around and says, I want to keep him? No, I know that's...
I hope not.
He's a manager coming in...
Apparently Mourinho wanted to keep him.
Yeah, that's not a true story at all. But what if Bruce comes in and says, had him in, I need to pull the plug on that, we haven't got many strikers, I need to have a look at him. So it's possible, you know what I mean? So I know that's daft to think like that, but the new manager's coming in, but look, we're not going to miss him, are we? Because, let's face facts, he got, 3 goals last year, and one of them was an offside goal in the FA Cup. We're not going to miss him, and I think the chance now for Sorensen to impress, which I'm sure you'll talk about later on, is now. He's got the chance, but we're not going to pick up much money, 2-3 million max. But I think the good thing is get him off the wage, because he's on a lot of money. He's on 40 grand, I believe, off the top of my head for a week, which is a lot for a striker. who struggles to get in the box. You just struggle to get in the box with the way we play. That's why Rondon was perfect, because he would lay the ball off and get back in the box. Hoskins can't even got the legs to do it, so best of luck to him. I'm not going to be too... I don't want to... Because obviously he's a nice fella and all that, but nice get to Norway, he's not for us.
Kyle, Hosso, I know you've probably never been his biggest fan. Allardyce Sorensen coming in, but it does mean that of the players in China that have played as striker for Newcastle, 2 of them are actually there, which is Muto and Gale.
Yeah.
Do you think, despite how sceptical you are, and I know probably what your answer to this is going to be, do you think maybe it increases our chance of the club looking to bring in a striker?
If it doesn't, I don't know what will, because you've got two strikers there, Gale, who played for West Brom last season, and Mutu, who scored 1 goal last season. 1 goal between them, and that's leading the line for Newcastle next season. I'm very worried. I mean, you can talk about Allardyce Sorensen, but the realisation of it is he struggled to get into Blackpool's team last season. So if he's struggling to get into...
Is that his fault though? Because there seems to be
rules. There was rules around that as well, because you have amount of homegrown players in your side as well.
I mean, Allardyce Sorensen could be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I honestly don't know what he'd be like at Premier League level, but
what about his bread?
At the end of the day, Lee, it's a big risk to play him.
It's too early. It's way too early.
It's way too early for him. I think he needs a loan move to League One side or a low Championship side to continue his development. I don't think he's ready to be chucked in the deep end yet.
Well, this is the perfect opportunity now for Allardyce Sorensen to go and impress, isn't it?
Impress
because he's definitely going to get, at least you would think, 2 halves in these 2 friendlies coming up. So I think this is the now, and I've been saying this for a long time, and a lot of other fans as well, is it's now the time for this lad to actually given, because Rafa's brought him in for a couple of times, just one-off days. Now he's going to be with the squad for at least 2 weeks. He's going to play a couple of games, and if he doesn't make the grade and he's not fancied by Ben Dawson, Neil Redfern, or even if it's Steve Bruce who comes in later on this week, at least he's getting a chance to have a look at, and that's all we're asking them. And you know what it is? It might be something alternative, because Dwight Gale has a lot of movement, whereas Sorensen hasn't. So Sorensen has a lot of movement in the box, yes, but he's not your runner. You're not run the channels for, he's not that type of player, but now is the time to go and impress, and I'm looking forward, I'm excited, and I'm actually, I said this off camera as well before, I'm actually looking forward to actually talking about football on Wednesday, not the negativity.
Newcastle being beat 5-0 by Wolves.
Well then at least it's football, we can talk about it, you know what I mean? I'm actually looking forward, and this in a flip side, this is where it gets you excited again for the season. I know there's a big carry on the boycott and all that, but the football's coming back, and whoever's at the helm, every Newcastle fan loves it when the matches are on. And hopefully Ellis gets a chance to impress, because I'm championing his way.
Jonny, just before we go on to some more, one thing just popped into my head is obviously Dwight Gale has come back, and as Rondon's gone back to West Brom. Having had a really good season at West Brom, are we getting back a better Dwight Gale?
I think it's a very, very good question, that. Possibly.
That works in journalism, can't you?
Possibly so, because he's going to get more chances in the Championship. With the chances he gets in the Premier League, he doesn't get them too often, and that was the approach by a lot of Newcastle fans, was that you need to take the chances you've got. But I remember the Swansea game where we drew 1-1 in the first half. He had at least 3 or 4 good chances and didn't put any of them away, and we scraped a 1-1 draw by the end of it. When you look at Dwight Gale now, I think he's a very much a confidence player. I think he was to get a couple of goals early on. Maybe if he was to manage to get on the score sheet against Arsenal, I think fans would give him another chance, because he has that potential. I think he's still young enough for Newcastle fans to give him
the bench,
He is massively. Is he going to be the number 1 striker at the minute? He probably is, because he's nobody else.
Has to be right now.
Yeah, but I think I would personally think it's worth keeping him at the club
I agree.
at the minute, because we haven't got any other options.
The Rondon deal's not happening.
It's not. Rondon looks to be either go to China or West Ham, or Newcastle's never really happened.
Kyle,
He's gone.
What are you going to do?
I'm devastated. I've got a signed picture. I've got his name and number on the back of last season's top. I'm gutted.
He's a very beautiful, elegant man.
He's a big, beautiful man.
What about the elegant man? You can jump onto him now.
The elegant man, who's
yeah,
that?
Fabian Schär.
I mean, he's your cup of tea, but yeah, mine's going to China, unfortunately.
Well, whatever floats your boat, lads.
Broken fan, right? Yeah.
But it is interesting you sort of talk about Gale as a confidence player, because when he in that season in the Premier League where he was with us, he was actually dropped for Hosselu for quite a substantial part, and that could have not done anything good for his
That was Rafa's decision though. You look at the type of player that he's had at Newcastle. He likes a big target man, and Hosselu to an extent fits that bill in a way.
Fits it better than Gale.
It does, and yes, Gale offered you more in terms of maybe scoring a goal, but I think Rafa's approach was, if we're still in the game with 20 minutes to go, then I'll chuck Gale on and we'll see where we go from there.
I agree. Gale's a good option off the bench.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot worse strikers amongst the Premier League who me and you will obviously all disagree and agree with. I think it's a position that Newcastle have to strengthen. If you're going to be realistic with players coming in, you've got to look at the two England nationals who are free agents at the minute, or former England nationals, Danny Welbeck and Daniel Sturridge.
I was going to ask you about those, so I actually have it down on the sheet of paper.
Well, you can ask us now then, Will.
So, Lee, if we're looking to bring in strikers, potentially two, would you be looking at bringing in Sturridge, Welbeck, people who are available for free?
Andy
yes, they will have big signing on fees. Yes, he's another option
I think they're realistic now, because I don't think the manager, Steve Bruce, if he comes in, is going to get much money, but I think we will pay a higher wage. I think we will push that up a little bit, 60, 70, 80 grand to get a Danny Welbeck. Yes, I know all these strikers have injury prone, we know all of that, that's the negativity that comes with it, but I think Newcastle would pay a high signing on fee for him and his agents, and I think we'll pay high wages to get a couple of strikers in, because any manager who's coming in knows that's one position, the key position, that has to be strengthened. Otherwise, goals win your games. If you win games, you stay up. We haven't got a goal scoring midfielder either. I know Longstaff might be that one in the future, but who in that squad can you look at who's going to get 5 goals?
There's no doubt that Welbeck has got the quality, but how many games did he play for Arsenal last year?
He always puts a shift in, Johnny.
How many games has he played for Arsenal in the 4 or 5 years he's been there? I'm sorry, but yes, he's a good player. Yes, he's excellent.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
Yes, he's a good player. There's no doubt about his quality.
Steve Bruce as well.
Yeah, but I just personally, another gamble, another massive gamble.
we're
You're
gonna have to
hoping that he's
gamble,
going to be fit for a season, and
But as
odds
another
are,
striker, so say we bought a striker for money, then we have Dwight Gale and say Danny Welbeck.
Or
Is that a
Mutu.
good 3? And Mutu as well.
I think
It's not that bad.
Two.
it's not
I
that
think
bad.
we need 2.
I'd
Yeah.
take Danny Welbeck in a
Carl, if
heartbeat.
I was to say we had the system that we had from last season, and I gave you a front 3 of striker, the only striker that comes to my name, I've got him down here, is Joe Linton. Say we bought him, plus Danny Welbeck, plus Almiron as a front 3, would you take that?
It'd be better than these 5 teams in the league to stay up, so I probably would. I'd take Mutu over Gale, but that's just me.
And the graphic on screen there,
That one? Who's making the signings?
who was actually making the signings again? Is it Steve Nixon? Is it Steve Bruce?
If it is Steve Nixon, is that something you're happy about?
No, because it should be the manager who has the final say.
But most clubs work in this way.
The
When
director
they
of
work
football,
at more
but
level.
it's-
City, Liverpool,
Yeah.
even the big clubs, they do it this way.
Surely Steve Bruce is going to say, right, how much are you going to give me? And the next question is, can I bring in who I want?
Well, this guy identified Almiron for a start, Steve Nixon.
But Rafa's been after him a long time as well, though, and it's probably not just him, because he's the chief scout, and I'm just worried that he's going to be the new Graham Carr.
But to
I
be
disagree with that.
Considering-
I think Nixon's actually really good at his job.
I'm not saying he's bad as his job, but
considering
I don't
the-
want him making the decisions at the
He's
club.
definitely very well regarded as Steve
Yeah,
Nixon.
I don't want him making the decisions. I don't want him saying, right, we're going after this striker, it's yes or no, we're going for him, doesn't matter what you say, Bruce, we're going for him.
He found the elegant man, he found Martin Dubravka, so I think I'd have a lot more faith in Steve Nixon to do his job and find some good players than I would Stephen Carr, that former
Hey, that's a
right back, no.
throwback.
Graham Carr. I'd much prefer Nixon in charge of transfers than Graham Carr for definitely.
Jonny, it's reported quite widely, and Keith Downey said this, Pete Greaves says this, and the Chronicle have said this, that as soon as a manager's confirmed, it's very likely, it's guessed anyway, like they seem to have it on good record, that Newcastle might very well have 2 signings lined up for when that comes in. Now, one of those might be Carl Scott, free signing from Chelsea. Do you think that's right? Because apparently Steve Nixon's been, he's got his shortlist together, they've been doing the groundwork and making the deals happen. Do you think that's something that will happen as soon as we have a manager?
They've got no choice. They have to. If they want Newcastle to be a Premier League team, they need to have new signings because the squad's bare.
25 days of transfer window to go.
Yeah, the squad's bare thin. It's bare thin. You look at the other teams that are going out to Asia at the minute. Man City, forget about them; they're in a different league altogether. But West Ham and Wolves are teams that are in the mid-table. They've strengthened already, and they're mid-table, and that's just to try and keep themselves mid-table and that sort of TV money as well. Personally, for me, I agree with Lee on the point before that I feel like a manager should be able to make his decision. I think he should be able to, live or die by his sword. However, it's not the modern way, not the modern approach. I think it's Pep Guardiola will have a list of names that you'll give to Manchester City and say, those are the sort of players I would like. Can you have a look at them and see who we agree as a team that makes that final decision? And I think that's kind of going to be the case with Newcastle. I think Rafa Benitez trusts his contacts. I think he trusts Steve Nixon, and I think he'll go, right, just go with it. If you've got to have an element of trust. The manager can't do everything, but he should be allowed to describe the type of player he wants. So say if he, for example, he wants a striker, he should be able to go, right, I want a striker that's 6 foot or above, very good in the air, or he's technically better on the feet, or he's a small striker and very quick. He's got to have that sort of element that they can go, right, that's what you want me to identify. I'll try and do my best and get the best player that we can realistically get. So I think 2 players has to be very much a start. I've heard the Gazette say 6 new players, which I think is very optimistic to say the least. But if players go, Perez has already gone as well. If Hayden was to go, 6 would have to be a minimum, to be honest with you.
Carl, do you believe the story that 6 players could be signed in the next 25 days?
Be lucky to be free.
I think we've got to get some in.
In the report they say 2 strikers, a midfielder, a winger and 2 full-backs.
We need a full-back, desperately.
We definitely need a right-back. I think that's a weak area.
Left-back.
No, I think we're going to have Matt Ritchie and Paul Dummett there. I think we're all right.
Yeah, but if you go with wing-backs, that's Matt Ritchie and Ashraf Lazar.
Maybe Dummett. I think Dummett
As
will
a
get
left
ahead.
wing-back?
Yeah, I think he'll get ahead of Lazar. You've got to be serious, haven't you?
Over Lazar, yes, but Dummett's not a left wing-back for me.
I think that's right-back's more priority than what left-back is.
But it is an area that even the club went on record saying that they were looking to improve.
Yeah.
I think you've got to get first striker, then the right-back, centre midfield. I think left-back's probably the weak. It is weak, don't get me wrong, but I think it's the least you need to worry about of those 4 positions for me.
Centre midfield could be a big option if Longstaff was to go to Manchester United.
I don't think Longstaff will go. We've said this
every week.
So also said, Man United are really put off by a £50 million price tag that we put on him. I don't necessarily think that Sean Longstaff is worth £50 million in today's market. He's definitely not worth £50 million to Man United, but by God is he worth £50 million to Newcastle.
100%, and Longstaff for me is the future of Newcastle. We've all talked about he's a local lad, but for me, Manchester United, I don't think will offer £50 million. I think the best they'll offer is 30. I think they'll just go, we'll wait 12 months, we'll see what he's like. Because yes, he's got talent, there's no doubt about that. But I think he needs another in the Premier League, getting games regularly. Unless he's 100% guaranteed that at Manchester United, and if Pogba was to leave, which could potentially still happen, then he has a chance. But I would say for the minute, if I was him or his agent, I'd go, look, let's play another year at Newcastle. Let's get games on the go.
Worried about Longstaff. Longstaff, yes, he'll have admirers, but he's only played 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge risk for Man United to go and splash the cash on Longstaff.
Well, think about sorry, you finish it.
So Hayden, for me, he's going to China and he doesn't want to be here. So I know the professionalism's there, you give me all that. But the lad doesn't want to be there, he wants to get closer to his girlfriend's fiance, I think he's married by now, and his daughter as well. So, we all slated Isaac Hayden, but we didn't really know until nearer to the time, the reason being. So I think Hayden's the one you need to be more worried about than Longstaff for me.
Carl, with the money that Newcastle very publicly said they had as a transfer budget, plus Perez going, makes about 90 million, Hayden potentially as well, if you say another 20, that's 110 million. We have names mooted about, say Joe Linton, say Maximum from Nice, Mateta from the Bundesliga, and also Calvin Phillips from Leeds United as a potential Hayden replacement. It does seem that the clubs are willing to pay more money for their signings. So, for example, they seem more willing to pay 35 million for Joe Linton rather than 16 for Rondon.
Why did they not do that last year with Rafa? I'm sorry, but that just really winds me up.
It does. I mean, if you'd have said to Rafa at the back end of the season, "Oh, we'll give you 110 million. Perez will have to go though, and a couple of others," he would have took 110 million in a heartbeat, and he'd still be here now. And
Is it more about control rather than an actual figure of money?
Well, Rafa worked well with them scouts. A lot of them coming in, or he trusts, because he trusted them with like such a Dubravka, Shaw, as I touched on before. So it can work even with Rafa, but for me, it's just to be honest. We'll talk about figures and everything like that, but honestly, my opinion on it is we'll be lucky to have the 2 loans and a couple of free agents. Like, we're talking about 110 million. We're not even going to spend anything close.
Really?
Anybody that thinks we're going to spend money in the summer, like over 35 million for one footballer, you need a therapist.
I'm not
It's
that.
only a shop, isn't it?
I'm not
Be
that
a new shop.
I'm not that pessimistic as Kyle, but I don't think we'll even spend half of the 110 million that's being muted.
We'll be
I
lucky.
agree.
We'll be lucky to spend what we sold Perez for.
It wouldn't surprise me, because seeing how they're talking about it, it wouldn't surprise me if the club have found a way to sign Joe Linton for a substantial amount of money. It's also another factor is, I mean, I think we'll get onto the season ticket sales in a bit, that they're trying to get the fans at least a bit more back on side to sort of arrest the slide. If you signed a striker for £35 million, and for me, Joe Linton, you know, while Rafa clearly had his reservations about him, there's a lot about him that I really like. There's a lot of clubs looking at him. I know Wolves are, Everton are, Tottenham are. It's a big competition. He's a big name player, and if he was to come in, he would be the number 1 choice striker, which I think is probably appealing. But Newcastle seem to have found a way to do staggered payments and get him through the door for a big fee, and I think they seem actually quite keen on the idea.
I think for me,
The way the Chronicle are saying is that like he could be one of those 2 sides that comes in quite
yeah,
quickly.
I think for me personally, in terms of that side of it, they both do quite well because they give a lot of the money straight up front and then they do it by staggered payments. So you have to kind of give a little bit of credit, not too much credit because of the mess that they've done this summer. But in terms of that sort of part of the job, they do that quite well, but they need to do that with not just one player, a lot more players.
For me, I'm with Kyle. I kind of see us being net profited more than what we have coming in. I think the loan players are going to get a shot to impress Steve Bruce. You know, we were criticised for saying the likes of Colback will be looked at. He's on the plane. Ashraf Lazar, Rolanda Aarons.
Saivet.
Yeah, Henri Saivet could be a key player. He could be a squad player this year. And then you've got Jacob Murphy returning. Dwight Gale we've talked about. So all these players come back from loan will be new players, new signings. Yay! Can't wait to go. Yay! Look, I'm being optimistic there, aren't I?
No, you're being sarcastic.
But I'm being realistic at the same time.
Yeah, of course.
They're all going to get a shot and press, and realistically, out of all those players, they're not really cut out to take us to that next level. The only player I'll probably give a chance to is Rolanda Aarons, so that'll be it.
But with the money that's available, a lot of people talk about actually not investing any money, but they made it very public how much money the club had. They made it very public that we've got X amount to spend. They seem to have told every single journalist that they know that we're going to give a manager this much money and they can spend it how their hearts desire according to us. So do you think that they would, because if they don't sign anyone, it's again the buck lands at their door?
It does, because at the end of the day, Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley sign off the deals at the end of the day. It doesn't matter who the manager was, if it was Rafa Benitez, Steve Bruce, Kyle Thompson, but you know, at the end of the day, they have some say, but the buck stops with the owner and the managing director, because at the end of the day, Lee Charnley is the one that decides if we're going to do a deal or not. It wasn't Rafa Benitez, because if it was the case, he'd be still here.
Alright, after the break we will be talking about the squad's pre-season trip to China, as well as talking a bit more about ticket sales and all the other news around Newcastle United. Don't go anywhere.
Right now I'm walking through hell, mental health addiction, it sucks. Let me get drunk, I've messed my life up, staring at the shadow of the man I become. It's just too late. Falling apart, each nudge in the brain knocks me out of place. Not working the pain. The tough love ish has nothing on fakes. I seem to leave the lips shut. There's no pennies left to wish me luck. On my journeys, on my path, it's a one-way ticket. Now in Darkland, clouds, smoke, big red skies. Satan made me an offer in life. He said, if I don't suffer, I belong here. If you choose to believe, then your life's in fear. I'm on a dark path. I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. I'm on a dark path. I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. It's all out of control when the mind kicks in. It's hard to stay afloat when the mind turns bad. It's hard to uphold. I've gassed myself out. It's hard to keep mold. Deception. It's all lies and fabrication. In my life I never got confirmation of whether I should be I add up the maths but I get the same answers. A grief and the pain. Change my lane. Change my mind. It's mess with my brain. But doesn't matter, I don't need a hand and I don't need chatter. You're in your own leagues but I'm not invited. Stood at the path between calm and violence, waving at the person I once was, but they never look back, nah not once. Laying in bed, tossing and turning, thinking, twisting, my head is hurting. Each bone inside my structure's burning. Why is it me, cause I didn't deserve this? The novelty's worn off, clinging for hope in the past now lost. Real life ish, I feel like an orphan, playing around with a life like an organ. Death is my one desire, only thing that makes sense, my life is satire. Only right that people just laugh. My pain's been public, it's now on blast. I'll just move out of the way for the key to be found. I do gotta pray. I am the villain, I am the cause, I am the problem without the laws. I'm on a dark path. I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. I'm on a dark path. I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. Come test me, man, better square up. Jaw, head, side, stomach get bust up. God didn't ask for you. You're just there cause you want to. You little attention seeker, posting on FB next to the tweeter. Furthermore, you mess with the tweakers, sat with the snakes I call familiar. Oh look, more keyboard warriors, thinking they know their ins and outs. Proud to be a fake, what's that about? You can't sit in my place, what you on about? Nah, what you on about? Talking crap about me, what you on about? Tapping on phone keys, what you on about? Screw you snakes, I'll give you the runabout. I'm on a dark path, I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. I'm on a dark path, I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance.
Welcome back to Nova Radio Northeast with Newcastle Fans TV on the Football Fan Zone. So far we've talked about Steve Bruce, we've talked about Sam Allardyce, we've talked about transfers, but now we're going to talk about Newcastle's pre-season, which sort of officially has got underway. The club have gone over to China for a Premier League tournament in Asia with Wolves, Manchester City and West Ham, I believe. Is that right? Yep, that's right. With no manager, Ben Dawson will be taking charge. And the interesting thing about this actually is that it's the first time we're going to hear anything from the club officially, because there'll be press conferences because it's an official Premier League tournament. We'll hear Ben Dawson in press conferences and he'll be asked all the questions about what's going on with the club, how's it all shaping up, what does he make of all the situation. What do you guys make of all this that Ben Dawson's leading the
I think it'll be interesting what he'll say, but I think he'll play it safe.
He's not going to just say we don't know anything.
No, I think he'll just say, I think you'll answer the football questions, who's playing, and there's a chance. I think you'll answer all of them, but when it comes to off-the-field stuff, I think he'll turn around, play it safe, he'll sit on the fence and say, my job with Neil is to take the team over here. If Steve Bruce is announced, fantastic. I'm sure the club, he'll come over. I think he'll just play it safe and won't give the media frenzy what they really want. They're not bothered if Jack Colback plays or Ashraf Lazar plays. They want to know what's happening inside the club. No, but the media don't really care about that. They want to know what's happening at the club, because the club are not responding to nothing. and this will be a perfect opportunity to try and quiz them and get them to slip up, because that's what the media job is to do. It's to tell the story and get factual information. Well, they're meant to get factual information, depending on who you believe. But look, I think it's good to get away as well. Jamal Lascelles has spoke about that as well. I think it's good just to get away from Newcastle, because it is a goldfish bowl. It really is. Just get away and be amongst your colleagues, mates, and the lads coming back from the loan systems as well to build relationships back up as well. We know that Lazar's pally with Yedlin and Aaron's as well, so we'll see.
Kyle, is it good that we've gone to China? I know Lee's touched upon it, but as a tournament, because if we'd stayed at home and done the friendlies that we normally do, we probably may have had a better chance, or maybe an easier transition to get a manager in.
I mean, possibly. I don't think it makes any difference. I think the main reason they've went over to China's money, but I don't think
about £1 million, I believe, for this tournament.
I mean, it's a lot for a friendly tournament, and a penny saved is a penny earned for Mr. Ashley. So it's just one of them. It won't go into the transfer budget. It'll be added to his collection, wallpaper collection.
Well, talking out for world-class hotels. We'll put a graphic on screen what the hotel looks like. Tell us about that hotel, Kyle.
The hotel, my God, it looks like something out of Chernobyl. It's
Will's just seen it for the first time.
It's tragic. It really is. To be honest, with the current regime, I'm surprised they're not in tents.
Look at this. Look at the state of that, man. You'd be fearing for your life if you walked out of a hotel.
For those listening on the radio, Lee, what can you see?
It looks like a muddy field that's been swamped with water. But then if I look at the left picture, it looks like a city which is being taken as a photo from the 1980s.
I don't need to paint it. I can paint a picture very well without looking at the picture for those on the radio. Basically, the Ferris wheel in Chernobyl. Everyone's seen it. You just picture that in your mind. That's currently what the state of Newcastle's hotel view looks like.
I'm sure it looks lovely inside.
I mean, it's Chernobyl without the radioactive gases in the air.
I actually thought it was a power station, but it's actually a city.
I bet Man City aren't sitting there.
So it's quite bad, but then again, as I said before, I'm surprised I haven't got sleeping bags, campfire, tents.
Well, while they're over there, I hope they say hi to Rafa. Jonny, I'm going to name some players for you. How do you see them getting on over there? Because there's the chance for them to step up, more senior players.
Yes!
What's
no! I don't know, I think England might have just won, but I think they don't have... Oh, no, I think it's another super over. Oh, my God.
That's the cricket for everybody.
Oh, my God.
He's celebrating on the camera.
I just saw Wicket, I thought we'd done it.
Johnny,
oh, my goodness me. Sorry,
right.
Will, sorry.
Jacob Murphy, Dwight Gale, Rolando Irons, Yoshinori Muto, Jack Colback and Ashcroft Lazar.
Oh, my God, that's the worst five-a-side team I've ever heard in a long time.
We haven't seen my five-a-side team play, trust me.
I personally think that you look at the players that Bruce had in in January to the end of the season. He really liked the look of Aaron's, and obviously Lee's touched on the fact that Aaron's had.
I'd want to see do well.
Yeah, Aaron. I don't know. For me, I would have sold him. I really would have. I don't think he's going to offer it. I think his attitude stinks by the look of it, and we don't need those sort of players. He might have a little bit of quality, but we need to get the potential out of him, and he's a bit injury prone as well.
We're not in a position to sell players, Johnny.
Well, I think we could sell him.
Is Rolando Aaron's better than Chris Natsu?
Possibly, but I think England just won the World Cup. Good on you, beauty. Ben Stokes, what a legend, local lad, Newcastle fan. He'd be delighted. I think he'd be. Obviously, this is on record for him, so he'd be watching this later on the Football Fan Zone. But no, for me.
Me and Kyle just look at each other and we don't care, do we?
I know you don't care, but
really.
I know you don't care, but oh my goodness, I know this is not new football related, but for England, for England to win a World,
are going to be reunited.
For England to win a World Cup is absolutely brilliant in terms of the football and Lazar.
Imagine it.
I couldn't see it happening, but again, all I will say is that we've only seen him in the Championship. We've only seen Ashraf Lazar in the Championship.
England have one. People are going crazy in the world.
Yes! Get in!
Are they?
What they're saying.
England have won the World.
Oh, I'm so happy.
See, that's the one we wanted.
Oh my!
Well, you want the positivity, Will, in the form of cricket. It comes to something when
England have won the World Cup.
biggest positive of the
Will's-
evening
Do you
is
know what I
cricket.
wanted though? I've
Will's always wanted breaking news.
I was about to say, we've always wanted breaking news and we've got it. England won the World Cup.
Oh my goodness,
Lee,
I'm
back
buzzing.
to football.
Aye, please.
Quickly touch on this. Chance of some of the younger players. So we've seen Matthew Longstaff, Owen Bailey, Callum Watts, Thomas Allen, and Elias Sorensen all go out there, as well as China Duke. Can you see them playing a big part out there?
Well, earlier on I've already said Sorensen's great chance for him to impress. You can see him on screen for those who are watching. Owen Bailey, interesting to see how he gets on. Where he plays, really. Defensive midfield, or is he going to play as centre-back? Callum Watts as well. Nathan Harker's got a lot of proof for me. I think he's way down the pecking order behind Woodman as well. I'm not a massive fan of Harker because I think he's got a prone to make a mistake. But good luck to him. A little bit disappointed Yannick Torre didn't go, and Victor Fernandez. I've already said that in a video or two. But yeah, the few of the lads that have gone out there. Look, this is what we want. As Toon fans, as Geordies. We want Geordies to be given a chance to at least show. I know the Danish Geordie, which you can see on the screen, but in general speaking terms, you want local lads playing for local teams. We've got Longstaff, we've got Dummett, we've got Jack Colback, woohoo!
Sorensen sounds more Geordie than most of us on this panel, if I'm being brutally honest.
More Geordie than Will.
Definitely more than me.
But,
More than
no,
us too,
I think it's great, and I actually like it, and I think it should happen more often because Rafa didn't really, you had them training, but he didn't bring in the youth, and I think that's probably a positive from Dawson and Redfern that they're actually taking 5 or 6 of the lads.
That's because it's their job.
But a lot of them are saying because they have to, not necessarily. They're taking more than the 25-man squad that you're meant to take, so they could have left a few of them behind. And
Did Mo Sangar go, or was he meant to go?
I don't know if Mo Sangar is actually went. I didn't see his name on there,
I
but
don't think so.
look, I think it's great. I think they'll get game time, and you know, if one of them gets to be training around the first team all season, you know, they might become a squad player. That's the next step for them, is to try and be a squad player, because it took a while for Sean Longstaff to get into that first team. Yes, through injury, but he played a cup game at Forest and so on. And
Don't mention Forest.
yeah,
Paul will explode.
No, you could have mentioned it because he's not here.
Yeah, but he's in the comments.
Yeah,
I
I
he's in
suppose.
the live chat.
Suppose.
But I think it's good, and if one of them can get with the first team, like Sean did last year, who knows? Why not?
We'll see. Kyle, touching on ticket renewals, obviously the boycott's been probably one of the most talked about topics this whole summer, and is still gaining strength. We've seen reports that the number of season ticket sales, that sort of the drop, if you like, from last season to this season, is in the region of about 10,000.
Where'd that report come from,
I'm
though?
not really sure.
It was
I
from
saw
Twitter.
It, in a few places,
It was from
yeah.
social media.
Oh, you've got to believe everything Twitter tells you.
Aye.
Yeah, but it's not sort of that outlandish to think. You see people who have been going to the club for decades turning away now.
Yeah.
And this also, you've got to remember that number doesn't include people who haven't renewed memberships, who just go from ticket to ticket like I've done and just aren't going to do it anymore. It's an enormous number.
I think it's more than 10,000, like, I'll say that now. I think
Well, if it is 10,000, it's about, what, 600 quid a season ticket for an adult one. That's
Yeah.
about £6 million the club's now not getting.
Which is nothing compared to TV revenue.
Very true, but do you think it's big enough of an impact for the club to sit up and take notice?
Yes,
Of course
definitely.
it is. I mean, I remember seeing an empty stadium for the Tottenham boycott a couple of years ago, and that made a massive difference. So, for me, seeing an empty stadium for Arsenal, I mean, we're partaking in boycott Arsenal, aren't we? So,
Yeah. Unless things change, the way it is in the minute, we're all majority.
the
of
only
our-
way I'll be going to Arsenal at home is if we've had a takeover, and my gosh, she's no longer there.
I think for me, with the boycott and the Arsenal stuff, I'm still for it. I'm happy to sit in a bar with yous and do with videos with Arsenal Fan TV, etc. afterwards, do all of that, fine. The only thing that will convince me to go at the Arsenal game is an influx of cash being spent. I think that if we have 50, 60, 70, 80 million being spent, it's coming in.
Nah,
you know.
that doesn't.
It'll push me.
Under Mike Ashley, if Newcastle spend 150 million, that's not enough. I'm not going to.
The
Arsenal.
takeover will have everybody.
If Mike Ashley's gone, then I'll, because the problem is, even if Newcastle spend 150 million, Mike Ashley's still the football club, and he's the cancer in it. So
I think a half-full stadium will still send messages across the world about the way Newcastle are at the minute, because yes, Newcastle Arsenal. When you think of that game, you think, oh, that's a decent game. That'll be a good game to watch, and that's why Sky have chosen it for the first weekend of the season, along with obviously the obvious one, which is obviously that game of the weekend. But I think it'll still send messages look, I personally am still undecided about this. I think obviously there was a lot of reasons for boycott Arsenal.
And I think what you
there's
have
work
to get-
commitments as well involved in my decision, but at the minute it's probably I'm very much 50-50 at the minute.
I think it's not necessarily a money thing, which a lot of fans are getting a little bit miscommunicated with. It's showing that you do not have the power or the control over a fan. Let's face facts, season tickets monies does not bring in much money over the course of a full season. It's where the TV money is.
It does in the Championship.
It does in the Championship, yes, but not the Premier League. Newcastle was showing half their games on BT
In Sky,
and that,
yeah.
This is just for our international viewers who don't realise that, because I know you can get international games anywhere practically now, any game, and that brings in a lot of money. UK, right, half of the games were live, and then you've got the money from the BBC Match of the Day, because people say, oh, well, I watch that Match of the Day. You're still contributing money. You cannot win as a fan. No matter where you watch the game, you are paying Newcastle United.
You say it's impactful. I think one thing that I've seen from a lot of people is that what they say about Newcastle fans is no matter what the situation is, no matter what league we're in, I mean, even in the Championship, there were still loads of people there. I remember when we were in the Championship more recently, there were so many times where we had the biggest stadium attendance that week across all the leagues in England.
Yeah. And in Europe, well, that was in the top 5.
Yeah, but if half of them don't turn up, it's like, if this is what has turned them away, surely that has to make people sit up and realise.
It will. The only way you get to make Ashley is through his pocket, and if people at Sky see half empty St James's Park, I mean, look at the contrast. I mean, Rafa Benitez's last home game in charge was Liverpool last season. There was a surf up there by war flags. The entirety of the Gallagher end was full with a big flag. Stadium was full. Singing all game. Atmosphere was absolutely electric. And then you go from that to the first home game of the next season. No one there. Why? Why is that? Why is the stadium went from that to this? One man, Mike Ashley, and he's the cancer in this football club, and I don't care if they spend 10 million, 100 million, a billion, I don't care. If Mike Ashley's still owner of this football club, by the first game of the season, regardless how much he spent, I won't be going to
This takeover's not happening. I'm sorry. Like I've said this for weeks now. This takeover is not happening.
Surely if the takeover was happening, they'll pick their manager.
Yeah, and
I know you've got the Mark Hughes story.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in a bit.
It's like a gentleman's agreement that what those guys have got in the Binzai group. It was literally gone. Oh yeah, we'll pay 350 million. Shake hands and we'll go. Yeah, we'll get it sorted. If you don't worry, we'll let you. We'll send you the money over as soon as possible.
Send you a text.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's beyond a joke. But there will be 52,000 at one point this season, but it literally depends on how the football club's being run from now, basically.
52,000 at Arsenal.
There won't be. Do
you want to know why? Because I think the club will put out a tactic release.
you think?
I think there will be.
What do you think there'll be a release about? What?
Something to.
What, like a big signing or a
Take over another consortium.
Yeah, something tactical. Ooh, you know what I mean? That gets us all.
I don't think that's enough. Like, to have seen it happen. Like, if there was another one to come over, say there's this other party that are very close to buying the club.
Because the club haven't
If this
said
has already
nothing yet.
happened, if that's the 4th time, people still be like, I'm not going there until I see
But the
somebody
club
holding up a
haven't
scarf.
said. The club haven't said nothing. If the club were officially to say something, that's when fans will take notice. Then, ooh, if it's yes,
Unless it says a takeover is done and happened, and here's the Binzai group holding off the Newcastle United scarves, I don't think it'll be enough.
Yeah, I think there'll be a tactical.
Doesn't have to be the
There'll be
Binzai
something
group.
up the
I
sleeve.
think they'll
Oh, yeah,
try.
They'll sign players or something to get fans back on board.
There'll be players. Right, Lee, I believe you've got some questions for us sent in by the viewers. Thank you very much for sending these in.
Yeah, we put this on our social media. You'll see everybody who's watching on the graphic on screen. Do you want to do it, Will?
Yeah, so I'll throw this one sort of round the table. So, Lee, do you think we could do a Sunderland? This is from Elias_B39.
In terms of where they are, I'm presuming that's what he's asking.
Mm-hmm.
Possibility. There's a real chance that Newcastle could be relegated this season. A real chance. And then what happens then?
We can't get relegated twice.
Not necessarily, but I don't think it'll go as far as that. But I could say it's being a mid-table championship side if things don't go to plan.
Kyle, this one's from Mark. He's using I'm going to replace the word he said. So, what is going on with my club?
I know the actual version, but can it
Can't say that on
That's
the
not-
radio.
What is going on with the club? What isn't going on with the club would be the answer to Mark. But it's one man holding everything back. I mean, Rafa wanted a couple of things to take the club forward. Any ambition that what the club had under Rafa, any ambition the club had at all, left with Rafa. So, what's going on with the club? One man, Mike Ashley. Get him gone. We'll have hope again. We'll get the club back.
Jonny, this one's from Jack. Where do you see Newcastle in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think you have to answer that question in two parts. If Mike Ashley's still the owner, I think flirting between the Premier League and the Championship. If we're being brutally honest, I think we'll become more of a yo-yo club. We'll have the odd good season of finishing 11th or 12th, but we'll have the season where we'll probably finish 18th, and we'll then have a tough couple of seasons in the Championship. If Mike Ashley is no longer involved in this football club in the next 5 to 10 years, the sky's the limit. The sky is the limit, because Newcastle have potential, which I hate saying because everybody knows this. You don't have to be a Newcastle fan to know this. Am I going to say that we're going to be winning the league and win the Champions League? No. But there's a potential for Europa League football for this football club if the right people are in charge of this football club. You know, this club was used to being... This club was used to be in European competition and regularly before Mike Ashley came in. We've been in European competition once since. It's not good enough, because when you get a taste of something, you want to keep having it. And unfortunately, with the current owner, it's not going to be the case, unfortunately.
Lee, if you could buy one player, who would it be? Realistically, this one is from Joe.
Be a free agent. It'll be one of those two strikers I mentioned earlier on. I think that's realistic, unfortunately.
Which one, though?
I'll probably take Welbeck over Sturridge because he can work hard and play in a couple of other positions.
Alright, we're going to throw back to Kyle. This one from Liam. Do you think we could fall down the leagues like some clubs have if we don't get taken over anytime soon?
Definitely. It's more possible. It's more of a possibility now than it has been in any of the seasons leading up to the seasons where we got relegated, if that makes sense. Like, for me, if we were to do a Premier League predictions video now on my channel, Newcastle would be bottom of the league. I'm sorry, like, but going back to the previous question that Jonny was asked, I mean, next 5 to 10 years where Newcastle are going to be, it does hinge on Mike Ashley. And if Mike Ashley's still here, we could fall as far as League 1, League 2. If he's not here, the hope around the city would be great. I mean, he touched on European football. Even if it wasn't a case of European football, if Newcastle had a bit of hope, a bit of ambition, feel if we're going in the right direction, then that would be enough for at least 90% of the people that support this club. So for me, if Newcastle can sort it out and eventually get rid of Mike Ashley, then the sky is the limit.
Jonny, the next question from Hugo is very, very similar to the one you got asked before. So where do you see the club in 3 years' time? So I think we'll give you a different one. This one's from Jason, who says it's better to keep Hosselu purely as a backup and to run down his contract rather than sell him.
What's the point? We're not going to play him.
Mike Ashley wouldn't get more of his imaginary wallpaper then.
No, I'm sorry. He's not good enough. Look, do you know what it is? I think by look at him, he seems like a genuinely nice person, but at the minute we need good footballers or good enough to be playing Premier League football. And if we're saying Hoslu's not good enough to be playing Premier League football, then he can't play. I'm sorry. Like, we're discussing players like Lazar, Colback, Aarons, potentially. They're not good enough for the Premier League. I'm sorry. We need players that need to be at least good enough. And obviously, we talked about the players that were on loan. Only Dwight Gale is an argument for Jacob Murphy. Potentially could do a job for a few games in the Premier League. But again, he's another player that you would go, I'm not 100% sure on. He's a guaranteed Premier League player. So, yeah, we've got to sell him regardless. It's a little bit of money. It's a little bit more money for whoever is in charge of the money, basically.
Alright, everybody, thank you for your questions. One more part to go, 15 minutes left on the show, but we'll be talking about the takeover and just having a bit of a general chit-chat after the break.
Right now I'm walking through hell. Mental health addiction, it sucks. Let me get drunk, I've messed my life up. Staring at the shadow of the man I become. It's just too late. Falling apart, each nudge in the brain knocks me out of place. Not working the pain. The tough love ish has nothing on fakes. I seem to leave the lips shut. There's no pennies left to wish me luck. On my journeys, on my path, it's a one-way ticket. Now in Darkland, clouds, smoke, big red skies. Satan made me an offer in life. He said, if I don't suffer, I belong here. If you choose to believe, then your life's in fear. I'm on a dark path. I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. I'm on a dark path. I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. It's all out of control when the mind kicks in. It's hard to stay afloat when the mind turns bad. It's hard to uphold. I've gassed myself out. It's hard to keep mold. Deception. It's all lies and fabrication. In my life I never got confirmation of whether I should be. I add up the mass, but I get the same answers. The grief and the pain. Change my lane. Change my mind. It's messed with my brain. But doesn't matter. I don't need a hand, I don't need chatter. You're in your own leagues, but I'm not invited. Stood at the path between calm and violence, waving at the person I once was, but they never look back. Nah, not once. Laying in bed, tossing and turning, thinking, twisting, my head is hurting. Each bone inside my structure's burning. Why is it me? 'Cause I didn't deserve this. The novelty's worn off, clinging for hope in the past now lost. Real life-ish, I feel like an orphan, playing around with a life like an organ. Death is my one desire. Only thing that makes sense, my life is satire. Only right that people just laugh. My pain's been public, it's now on blast. I'll just move out of the way for the king to be found. I do gotta pray. I am the villain, I am the cause, I am the problem without the laws. I'm on a dark path. I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. I'm on a dark path. I am the last left. I am the last man fighting for my circumstance. Come test me, man, better square up. Jaw, head, side, stomach get bust up. God didn't ask for you. You're just there 'cause you want to. You little attention seeker, posting on FB next to the tweeter. Furthermore, you mess with the tweakers, sat with the snakes.
To Nova Radio North East on 102.5 FM and to the Football Fan Zone with Newcastle Fans TV. We'll be wrapping up the show in about 10 minutes time, but we're going to talk about the takeover, the story that has dominated all of the summer, and what the latest on it is. Latest reports from the media, Chronicle released an article saying that they believe that the takeover has stalled, and they're at a bit of a stalemate. And Keith Downey in an article a couple of days ago saying he was doubting the validity of the group, mainly focusing on how their latest statement was released through the Newcastle-born Dubai journalist, Peter Redding, I believe is his name, a radio DJ out there in the Middle East. But does believe that there are other groups in negotiations with Ashley also holding up the business and holding up any takeover, and they're just trying to decide which party is giving them the best deal. I mean, I think a lot of people will probably say that they saw this coming, or they doubt the validity of the group. I mean, I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on it. Do any of you have doubts on the validity of Bin Zayed?
Yes,
I know
definitely.
you definitely
I do, because why is it, we've said this loads of times, why is it all third party?
What do you think they try
What
to
they're
think
going to
about?
hide, what is, how do you do your business like that? So if I want to get a message to you, I wouldn't go to Kyle to tell you.
I think you have done in the past, not gonna lie. But,
To get a hold of you, because somebody's going to pick up.
Do another
But you know
video.
what I mean? That's what I mean. So if I wanted to go and tell someone, I wouldn't go third party and release it. You know what I mean? If we have something exciting like an interview lined up with Newcastle Fans TV, whatever, we wouldn't, go third party to tell someone. It's the way they do the business is pure, and that's if that is a massive if, because they might not be real. This is the royal family. They're part of the royal family.
I think they're definitely real. I don't sort of accept that because Newcastle backed up that they were real. And
where's that?
Well, they backed up that group is genuine and it's in negotiation with Newcastle.
They privately have said that to journalists that they said that privately said to journalists that the statement that the Bin Zayed group have come out with when literally the whole takeover explosion happened, that the statement that they're reading out is not inaccurate, because Newcastle would have had to come out with a statement to say whether the story was false, because they don't want false stories. If it was true, it's another matter, because obviously Newcastle didn't have to comment, but if it was false, they would have had to comment on that, and they never did. So that element is truthful. However, for me, I also have massive reservations. One thing that all the consortiums that have in common, the likes of Amanda Stevens, the likes of Peter Kenyon, and the likes of the Binside Group, there is no proof of funds. You can't buy it. It's like, okay, I'll give it a very plain example, right? If you go to Tesco or any supermarkets, and you try and buy a chocolate bar for 50 pence, you can't give them 20 pence and think, oh, that'll be enough.
Ashley would try.
Ashley would try, but you know what I mean.
But how they got this far? Because they said the club, I think it was in their fans forum, they said from a very early point.
Sorry, say again. A what?
So from a fans forum.
A what?
What's one of them?
What's a fans forum?
I don't know, but it does.
I'm quite bitter towards that now.
But it does mean that the club on record have said that from a very early point of stage they asked for proof of funds, and it's strange to think that it's gone this far without them submitting a proof of funds, especially with the claims that they're making.
I just don't like the fact that it's being passed around well. That annoys me. The fans forum's a joke. The people who sit on it, I'm not going to say that everybody is, but they should be moved around as well with that fans forum. There should be new people appointed, voted on as well, not hand-picked and kept there for years. And I think the statements, I don't like it. How does a radio DJ, you're a radio DJ right now, why don't you make up a story, people believe you, put it on Twitter?
Well, some people on Twitter have.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and then there's people, that carry on the other day, that was a story with what was it, a barber, hairdresser?
A barber, dentist.
Said it was coming up at 7 PM, it was coming at 9 PM. False hope, stop giving fans false hope, man. Be realistic. Why are these old third parties dodgy as out, man?
Nobody really knows.
The
only person that does know, is Mike Ashley.
And
he won't say anything, and like you've got to just accept that at the minute, if they don't get the asking price, then it's not going to happen.
Though, 350 million to them, they like drop it down the couch and forget about it. Do you know what I mean?
It probably is just the couch.
Yeah.
It's probably gold.
It's the first. If they're all legitimate, these are the first set of people that are capable of actually buying the club. Because Amanda Staveley couldn't afford it. Peter Kenyon couldn't afford it.
Amanda Staveley was only fronting it for a company once, so was Peter Kenyon. Peter Kenyon tried to get a couple of businesses involved from America, whereas the Binside Group, the royal family, allegedly. The royal family.
Well, it seems that there's more than just one party talking to them, and that there are others involved. I remember before there was the explosion from the Binside one, there was a talk of someone from Mexico, I believe it was, although I might be wrong on that. I believe there was at least a Chronicle article onto it. But if there are multiple groups, I'm trying to rephrase my question. The difficulty is, I think I already know the answer here, is that there have been countless amount of groups that have tried to buy Newcastle United. Some in the last 2 years since the club's been up for sale and is still up for sale. And previously when the club was up for sale when it went down to the Championship. How can none of them have bought it?
Wrong man, Mike Ashley. They'll probably say, right, we'll give you this, and he's like, oh no, Newcastle finished 10th, I want this.
But if they've said that they've agreed terms, or they've verbally agreed terms, which I think is where people got misconstrued here, that saying that they've agreed a price to say, okay, 350 million, okay, that's an agreed price, but it's not a bid. Why are we still waiting 6 weeks later for something to happen? But then again, these takeovers do take a very long time.
I don't like that they do the business in public. I don't like that.
Well, do you think that's more? Cause I think
or on Twitter.
I said this point originally. Do you think that's just covering their own backs because they know
I don't
what
know.
might
I've said this to you, Kyle. I'm worried about something happening in the future. If they come in, great roles, saying blah blah blah, but everything's going to be played out in public. Contract situations, agents, arguments.
Some people will say that if it's the other way around, which it is under Mike Ashley, that there's not enough communication with the fans.
Yeah.
So you can't win, can you?
Some things need to be kept private, and this is one of them.
Look where private's got them. It's got them massive fan unrest and no clarity whatsoever on the state of the club and who owns the club, who's managing the club.
That's because of Mike Ashley, though. If it was fake, surely they'd come out and tell where it was fake.
I can't believe it was gone. It could have gone this deep with it being just Mike Ashley just sat down and thought, right, we're going to make up this group called the Binside Group, who are apparently going to buy Newcastle and it's owned by a sheikh in Abu Dhabi. I can't believe that he just thought. I
don't think he has the mental capacity to do that.
I think the real question is the club ever for sale? That is the brutal, honest answer. Do you think that Mike actually really wants to sell this football club? Because if he really wants to sell a football club, I think it would have been done by now.
I think the question is, who does he want to sell it to? Because I think one of the latest theories is that Peter Kenyon was afforded a lot of time because Mike Ashley knows Peter Kenyon, and the deal that Kenyon would have given him would be very favourable towards Ashley. It's not just like Binzai Group maybe are saying like, right, we just want to buy the football club.
It's
and
not
then
that
just cut
simple
ties
because
like
he
that.
wants.
Whereas Peter Kenyon might maybe like, we'll still give you Sports Direct advertising for
yeah,
a very
That's
long
the thing, when the takeover, if it happens, is Ashley still going to get money from sponsorships.
Well, that's what he's probably wanting. It's
He
like
wants more. You want something from it, more. You want something more from it, and you know a lot of the staff are petrified. I mean, Lee Marshall's petrified to say anything on Twitter
I would be as well if I was in his
because he
shoes.
loses his job. So it's a very
Well, they've
difficult
clearly been
situation
told to
for,
say nothing.
for employees to say anything.
Well, they've clearly been told to say nothing, and they've been told to keep things under wraps, which I understand from one point of view because takeovers, successful ones anyway, generally happen under wraps, and they obviously don't want to say anything because if the club came out and said, right, we've been talking to this lot, we're still in negotiations. If it falls through, it's just another lot of rubbish that goes towards them, isn't it?
Massively, but I think as well, if you're Lee Marshall, if you're anybody at that football club, I don't think they're getting told a lot of information. I think I think the information will be when it very, very, very close to it happening because they'll have to be informed of a change of ownership for their job. So I think they will know before us, but I'll be very surprised if they know massively ahead of us. So it's just another tough week at Newcastle, but I feel sorry for some of the employees at that club.
Yeah, I think it's important Carl's obviously raised this point, is that it doesn't mean, if a business happens, it doesn't mean that a takeover isn't happening, is it?
No, but I mean, with the Binzai Group, like Jonny and Lee's touched on the legitimacy, but at the end of the day, I think we'll know by the end of the transfer window. I think day after the transfer window, if it's fake, they'll be, oh well, it's all mess. But
Alright, one word from all of you. Will a takeover happen, let's say in the next 12 months? Lee?
12 months, yes.
Kyle?
yes,
No,
Jonny?
no.
In the transfer window, just as a general point from all
No.
of you?
no.
Alright. Well, that's all our thoughts from today. Thank you very much for listening. We've been Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio North East on 102.5 FM. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter. Do you have Instagram?
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
you
of course, we've got Instagram.
Yeah, so make sure you follow along for
Daily
all the
Plus.
latest regarding the season. And we will see you later. Bye-bye.